2.
There's 30, and do you know how to count, sir?
Yep.
Perfect. Welcome aboard, sir.
Thank you.
The Alaska Good Friday earthquake would register 9.2 on the Richter scale. It would last 4 minutes and 38 seconds. In the final minute of the earthquake, the fault line split 4th Avenue down the middle, and the north side of the street dropped 11 to 36 feet for 12 miles. 10,000 acres of land was displaced. It would have taken the equivalent power of 23,000 Hiroshima-sized atomic bombs to have moved that amount of dirt. So we're very, very fortunate that so few people died here. On that night, my husband was 11 years old. He'd woken up that morning with a horrible toothache. His father was able to convince the dentist to come downtown even though it was Good Friday. The dental office was right where the bear is on top of that building on the 2nd floor. So my husband's sitting in the dental chair. The dentist goes, "Dave, I got to give you some Novocaine before I drill into that tooth." Sometimes people see crazy stuff under anesthesia. Don't worry about it. The dentist shoots his jaw full of Novocaine. The whole building rises 3 feet in the air, up and down for 4 minutes. In the final moments of the earthquake, when the city collapsed, that 2nd floor window ended up level with the street. My husband's life and the life of the dentist saved because the dental chair had so much steel in it, the 3rd floor trusses hit the top of the chair and stopped. They crawled out that little envelope onto the street. Dazed and confused, my husband turned to the dentist and said, "Novocaine's kind of scary, huh, sir?" He literally thought he was having a dental delusion. So coming up on the right side of the trolley is a statue of a dog right here. That statue's nose marks the starting line of the Iditarod sled dog race held here every winter. This race commemorates the 1925 serum run to Nome, Alaska, when Nome was hit with diphtheria, and the only way to get the serum there was to mush it there through relay teams of dogs. So the statue is of Balto. Balto was the lead dog on the very last dog sled that pulled the serum into Nome, Alaska. The rest of the team had literally given up. Balto pulled the rest of his team into Nome, Alaska. They delivered this serum, which saved the lives of 600 Americans suffering from diphtheria. He's the only dog to ever get his picture on the cover of the Wall Street Journal as a result of his heroism. Of us, West Anchorage High School, it's an international baccalaureate school, and those of you who are familiar with that term, the seniors graduate from the IB program as sophomores in college. This was the first modern high school in Alaska, and it was completely destroyed right down to the last brick on Good Friday, on that night. Here's the miracle. Not a single student died in the building. It was Good Friday, and the building was closed. Our second miracle, as you look out over the skyline of Anchorage, of all the buildings you can see, the only high-rise building to survive the earthquake is the one marked Inlet at the top with the stripes on it. Every other building collapsed, and the miracle is only 9 people died in Anchorage. How could that be? How can you have an earthquake that's the power of 23,000 Hiroshima atomic bombs and only lose 9 people? The buildings in downtown Anchorage collapsed empty. It was Good Friday. Had it been just 24 hours earlier, the Army Corps of Engineers believes the minimal number of deaths in Anchorage would have been 3,000 people in a city of 50,000. And who would have been those dead people? Would have been all the fathers who would have been at work in downtown Anchorage. So we feel very blessed to have survived with so few casualties. 4 of these groups used to build their homes in the Arctic underground. They were called Barabaras. Now, why build underground? Because of the wind chill factor. If you're in Barrow, Alaska, and it's minus 30 degrees with a 30-mile-an-hour wind blowing, that means the real temperature is minus 60. If your earlobes are sticking out from underneath your hat in a 5-minute walk to the bus, you will frostbite them. So it's hard to heat your home with that kind of a wind blowing against it, so they built underground. I want to point out these crab apples. I'm going to tell you a story about the crab apples in just a minute. We build these homes underground even to this day. This is the Isaacs underground home. They're called Barabaras. The 2 skylights are the only 2 windows in the back, 500 square feet, 14 steps leading down to Mrs. Isaacs' front door. The walls on the house are 36 inches thick with insulation. This house is so airtight that in the winter they can maintain a 60 degrees in their home from their body heat before they have to turn on the heater. 3 stories deep. Last summer on the last day of the trolley, the big trolley had broken down. I was driving it. So the Cyrus sent to get another trolley so I could finish the tour. The tow truck was coming. Marty Isaacs walked out of her house and goes, "Donna, what are you going to do with these tourists while you're waiting?" When I have no idea. She goes, "Well, why don't we take them on a tour of my house?" Yes. My whole group got to go through that house. I'd been trying to get in that house for 20 years. It was very beautiful on the inside. One of the ladies on the tour asked her, what's the worst part about living underground like this? Marty Isaac's response was, I do have to mow my roof. So that was one comment about living underground. So probably the most asked question I get on this tour, what is the cost of homes in Anchorage? Looking to the left right here, this little green house is a typical 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, split-level home, family room downstairs with a 2-car garage. Homes of this variety in Anchorage are currently selling between $380,000 and $400,000. But if you pick up that little house and move it just 20 miles outside of Anchorage, you could purchase that home for $190,000, and it would be on an 1.25 acre lot. 80% of all homes in Alaska have their own well and septic system. The building code requires that your minimum lot be 1.25 acres. Little beach towns in Washington, Oregon, and California were all evacuated as a precaution against a tsunami wave destroying their towns. And one of those beach towns that was evacuated was Crescent City in Northern California. Following the evacuation, 11 people went back down into the town, built bonfires on the beach, set up tripods in the sand. Their plan was to take pictures of the wave as it came rolling in. This was the last thing they ever saw, was that wave. It was 34 feet tall, traveling 68 miles an hour when it slammed into that little town and killed all 11 people waiting on that beach. So, in the immortal words of my grandmother, sometimes you just can't fix stupid. The Fish and Game tells us we have about 1,100 moose within the city limits of Anchorage, and I can tell you they're all in my garden. In 42 years, I have not had one single piece of broccoli make it to my kitchen table. And I swear moose have ESP. You think, all you have to do is think about, I better pick the broccoli tomorrow, and they hop that fence and eat it all. This is how tall you have to build a fence to contain a moose. This is a 14-foot tall moose fence, and the gate there is a moose gate. You'll notice those little round things. The moose are able to push in to get into the tundra, and the reason why they want over there, that's where all the willow is growing. And when they turn around to come back out, those round tonguey things bonk them in the face. Doesn't hurt them, but it irritates them, so they don't try to push against the fence to get back out. This contains them. And why are they being contained? Because they're certainly not fenced in. They can walk 2 miles this way and get out, 8 miles this way to get out. What they cannot do is walk out on this road when we have 20 hours of darkness a day in the winter, where it can snow 21 inches in 3 hours, no problem, with snowflakes the size of quarters. And there you are driving out that road on a snowy, wintry, dark Alaskan night, and the worst thing in the world to see in your headlights is a moose. 50% of all of America's small engine aircraft are located in Alaska, as well as 50% of all small engine licensed pilots live in Alaska. That's not how many people are flying in Alaska, that's how many people are licensed to fly. My brother-in-law's name is Bill Bowman. He is the FAA flight director in charge of pilot certification and rescue. He had to go out to Bethel in the first week of June to give 4 commercial small engine aircraft pilots their check ride for the year. His FAA record showed 26 licensed pilots in that village. He counted 83 aircraft. So in these remote villages, you don't come into Anchorage to become a pilot. Grandma taught you how to fly the family plane. You started flying when you were 14. It's like landing with trampolines on your feet. They bounce to a stop. Now notice that there is a window above the pilot. It is flying in the bush in Alaska, it is a responsibility of the pilot who's taking off to make sure he doesn't come up underneath a plane that's already in the air. So the takeoff pilot is responsible for not hitting another plane that's above him. When you drive a car, what do you do in heavy traffic? Your head on a swivel, left to right, to make sure you're not going to get T-boned, right? When you fly a plane, left to right and vertically as well, you have to worry about that third dimension. There are planes in this lake that can be bought for $20,000. There's planes in this lake worth $5 million. These little cabins you see are where the pilots are sleeping who bought airplanes without talking to their wives about it first. No, they're a mechanical shed. You have a discount at the yellow tent being set up right there. He was voted the best street vendor hot dog in Alaska. So if you want to go have a street vendor hot dog, you can do that as well with your discount.
flight crew, we'd like to thank you for choosing to fly with Air Canada, a founding member of the Star Alliance, and we look forward to serving you again in the very near future.
Thanks for the safe flight. All right, we're in Vancouver. It's 7 o'clock Alaskan time, 8 o'clock Vancouver time.
What?
Yeah. That's what he said when we landed. We landed just after 8. What's it say there?
7 o'clock right
Right.
now.
So it's 8 o'clock because we're an hour different.
In Alaska.
Right.
Yeah.
7 o'clock in Alaska, 8 o'clock here.
No, it's 7 o'clock here.
Nope.
Why would my phone be?
Because he told us when he landed. It's 8 o'clock. Our luggage is being forwarded to Toronto. So we don't have to worry about that. Now we just got to sit around for 2.5 hours. What can we do in 2.5 hours?